Brother. It is quite a journey to go from being squashed like a bug by the Ultimate Warrior, to being one of the most decorated champions of all time, to being the guy who runs the whole friggin' show. But WWE's Chief Content Officer, Paul Triple H Levesque, has done just that. And on that path, he may have participated in a thing or two or seven that the new corporate corporation might like us longtime wrestling fans to not mention quite so often. I'm Senior Siete for 7 Wrestling, and let's take a look at 7 things that WWE wants you to forget about Triple H. Now, before we get into this, we appreciate your support, so if you enjoy this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and pedigree that notification bell. Number 1. Flash in the Pan. Yeah, this list is going to spend quite a bit of time in the Attitude Era. That was a magical time where it seemed like anything was possible. The rules are there ain't no rules. Men were chokeslamming women, women were giving birth to hands. It was wild. And Triple H was the head of a faction that was responsible for a great deal of this ridiculous behavior. So of course he's going to be smack dab in the middle of a lot of stuff. But to start us off, we're going to talk about some of the sexy sex that took place during that time. And if you were a fan back then, it was all just fun teases, never anything that would get them thrown off of primetime television. Yeah, there was the occasional slip up, but you know, that's live TV. And there was a time that a major accident happened, but that was on pay-per-view. On occasion, things would get a little bit wilder than usual. For example, if you purchased the old DX VHS tape, and yes, I'm that old to have VHS tapes, there was a segment that showed the current head of WWE Creative encouraging women in the audience to, reveal their assets, if you would. I'm sure Jerry Lawler would have a much more colorful euphemism for that, and frequently, the ladies in the audience would, give everyone a show. And apparently, nobody enjoyed that show more than Shane McMahon. 90s WWE was so crazy. Anyhow, we're not going to get all prudy on you here, but there were definitely kids in the audience, so this is probably one that the WWE would like to sweep under the rug. Number 2. China Syndrome. The Undertaker was recently joined by Dennis Knight on his 6 Feet Under podcast. And if that name doesn't sound familiar, Dennis is known for portraying Phineas I. Godwin, the pig farmer, or Midian, the dark underworld lackey, or Naked Midian, the dark underworld lackey who ran around in his birthday suit. It was a nuanced portrayal, my friends. Anyhow, during this podcast, Midian revealed that he was, in fact, the very first person to ever ask Stephanie McMahon out on a date. She politely declined, but wow, based on that information, that means there's got to be a universe out there where Midian became a 12-time World Heavyweight Champion and now runs the whole show, and Hunter ended up running around in his skivvies. Okay, that probably isn't true. Hunter was already in the main event by the time he and Stephanie started dating, and with his clean lifestyle and his thirst for the business, Hunter probably would have done well for himself no matter who he married. Maybe he wouldn't have risen to the top of a family-owned business, but he would have been fine. Since Hunter and Steph hooked up, they've married, had 3 beautiful daughters, and seem to be quite happy together. Oh, love, true love. But the one thing that sullies that fairy tale romance is the fact that when Stephanie and Hunter got together, Hunter was technically in a relationship with the 9th wonder of the world, China. Now, there are conflicting stories as to what exactly went down, but China has said that she found a legitimate love letter from Stephanie to Hunter and Hunter's luggage. Around the same time, China's contract was coming up. Whether or not the fact that her ex-boyfriend was now dating the daughter of the owner of the company had any effect on the WWE not offering her the money she wanted, well, she thought one way and the WWE thought another. From there, China embarked on quite a turbulent journey. She ventured into the world of reality television, appearing on shows like The Surreal Life and Celebrity Rehab with Dr. Drew, which gave fans a glimpse into her personal battles with substance abuse and her attempts at recovery. Eventually, China found herself in the adult film industry, a move that was met with both controversy and criticism, further complicating her public image. Sadly, her life was cut short in 2016 when she passed away from an accidental overdose. And while we don't think it's fair to hold Hunter responsible for everything that happened to China post-WWE, she was her own woman. It certainly is something the WWE would like us to forget. Number 3. Video game politics. When we're talking about politics as it pertains to professional wrestling, we're talking about the act of a talent lobbying with the bookers and matchmakers to make things more favorable for their character, which is often seen as a negative. Virtually every top performer in the history of the business has participated in this act to some degree, and Triple H is no different. The King of Kings reportedly had quite a hand in a few backstage burials over the years. However, that's not why Triple H's politics made this list. In the world of video game journalism, oftentimes the companies will send their titles to magazines and gaming websites early so they can write a review. And often, along with that access to early titles, the outlets have to agree to certain provisions. A common one is not releasing plot points for later in the game. However, in the case of the SmackDown vs. Raw '09 video game, there were specific rules against showing screenshots of superstars bleeding or using weapons. Okay, that's a little odd for a wrestling title, but you don't want to scare off mom and dad. What was surprising was the WWE's assertion that reviewers refrain from showing screenshots of a very specific wrestler losing or in a defensive or vulnerable position. And that wrestler, you guessed it, Frank Stallone. Sorry, it was Triple H. Obviously. And what's a vulnerable position anyway? I'm assuming they meant, him about to be rock bottom, but what if they meant something like, he was sad because someone made fun of his favorite jean jacket? At any rate, this is dumb. It's dumb to care if your character gets beat up in a video game. You never hear Glass Joe complaining about it. Number 4. Nation of Discrimination. We've talked about this one a few times, so we're just going to hit the main points here. Wrestling has a proud tradition of superstars dressing up as their opponents as a way of adding some heat to a feud, and nobody did it better than the lovable scamps of D-Generation X. Hunter and Shawn dressed up like Vince and Shane McMahon, Shawn had some fun at Hulk Hogan's expense, and who can forget the time Triple H faced off against Conan the Barbarian? But one of these DX incidents has been locked up in the vault. That's right, you'll find no traces of this on the WWE Network on Peacock. That's the time that D-Generation X dressed up like their rivals from the Nation of Domination, complete with blackface makeup. Yeah, fortunately, Hunter wouldn't be involved in something that could be considered racist ever. Number 5. Booking Booker. One of the WWE's taglines for a while was, "We just like to put smiles on people's faces," which is a wonderful sentiment. After all, at its heart, pro wrestling is a morality play where the good guy faces insurmountable challenges and manages to succeed in the face of adversity. When heels do and say terrible things, we need them to get their comeuppance. So, in the lead up to the WrestleMania 19 title match between Triple H and Booker T, when Hunter told Booker that someone like you doesn't get to be a world champion, we were all doing a little bit of cringing. Hunter would continue, "You're not here to be a competitor, you're here to be entertaining. Go ahead, Book, do a little dance for me." Oof. Yeah, this was definitely not subtle, and it'd keep going with Hunter saying, "Your job is to make people like me laugh, and you're very good at it with your nappy hair and your suckers." Oh, you can even hear the crowd starting to get uncomfortable during this ill-advised promo. Later on, Hunter would claim that the interview had nothing to do with race, but when he was talking about people like Booker T, he was referring to WCW guys. They doubled down on this with Ric Flair telling Booker T that he should carry Rick's bags and drive his limo, and later Triple H would throw $1 at Booker T and tell him to get him a towel. But they did have Booker stand up and defend himself against those comments. All of this led to the big title match at WrestleMania 19, where Booker would finally put Triple H in his place and claim the World Heavyweight Championship. But, come on, you know how these lists work. Hunter ended up beating Booker T as clean as a whistle in the center of the ring. And if you're unfamiliar with the mechanics of a wrestling match, know that the finish was even a little insulting. Usually, if someone hits their finishing move and goes for the pin quickly, they have a chance of winning. If they go for the pin slowly, the opponent almost always kicks out. In this instance, from the moment Booker's head hit the mat after a pedigree to the moment Triple H finally draped his arm over Booker for the pinfall, over 24 seconds had passed. That is insane. When it was all said and done, the WWE creative team danced around promos with racist undertones and then forgot to put the racist in his place. Smiles on faces, right? Number 6. Tainted Victory. Getting back to Hunter and Booker for a moment, we appreciate that Hunter Hearst Helmsley is a character that Paul Levesque portrays on a wrestling TV show. He didn't come up with the things to say to Booker T. A writer wrote them in a script that was approved by upper management and then given to Triple H to say. But that still doesn't mean the WWE wouldn't rather have us forget that their new top dog performed these controversial acts. And speaking of controversial acts, the game would have one for the ages when he accused Kane of having inappropriate contact with a corpse. That's right, we're talking about the good old Katie Vick saga. From those of you who are unfamiliar and oh, how lucky you are to have not had to live through this, Triple H would accuse the Big Red Machine of not only killing his best friend in a drunk driving accident, but also making love to her, after the fact. Now, bear in mind, this person, Katie Vick, is a fictional character, and Kane would fess up to accidentally killing her in a car accident in his youth. Never mind that Kane's original backstory was that he was a mindless violence machine. The fact that he had friends and drove cars and went to parties was a shock to everyone. But let's not bury the lead here. Kane admitted to the accident, but swore that he didn't do the other stuff. So to get under Kane's skin in the lead up to the world title match, I'm sorry, did I not mention that this insanely stupid angle was to build up to a match for the World Heavyweight Championship? Yeah, just like Hackenschmidt and Gotch. Anyhow, to get under Kane's skin, Hunter would dress like Kane, go to a funeral parlor, and then pretend to be intimate with a mannequin. So dumb. But it was all worth it when the bad guy would get his comeuppance and Kane would defeat Triple H. Nah, come on. Triple H won. Hey, if they can keep using the same endings, I can keep using the same jokes. Number 7, the brains behind Montreal. It's hard to believe that one of the most pivotal moments in pro wrestling is over 25 years old. The one moment that helped turn Vince McMahon into the perfect foil for Steve Austin's anti-authority character. The moment that almost tore WWE apart before they managed to right the ship and go on to best WCW. I'm of course talking about the Montreal Screwjob. Now for the uninitiated, Bret Hart was given a contract that was too much for Vince McMahon to honor, so he encouraged Bret to see if he could strike a deal with WCW. Bret did and was on his way out of the company, but there were a few problems. Bret was the WWE champion, Bret had creative control in his contract, and Bret did not want to drop his title to the guy he was having a real-life feud with, Shawn Michaels. This, of course, led to the Survivor Series on November 9th, 1997, live from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, where Shawn Michaels would lock Bret Hart in the sharpshooter, the referee Earl Hebner would act like Bret Hart had submitted, and Michaels would be awarded the WWF title. Over the years, a lot has been said and written about this event, and something that sometimes gets lost in the sauce is the role Triple H played in this infamous moment. As in, apparently it was his idea. When Vince, Shawn, and Hunter were trying to figure out a course of action, Hunter reportedly said, "If he won't do business, then you do business for him." It was then that the group devised the plan to make it seem like Bret had submitted to his own hold. Coming out of Montreal, Vince took most of the heat for everything, with Hunter's involvement being kept secret. But one person that night seemed to know exactly what was up. In the amazing behind-the-scenes documentary, Wrestling with Shadows, you need to check it out if you haven't. Bret Hart's wife, Julie, absolutely lays into Hunter backstage, and he does a terrible job of hiding his guilt. He swears to God that he didn't know anything about it, but she sees right through it. It was a bad look for Triple H, and one that I'm sure the WWE would like us to forget. Well, there's our list. Did we forget any other Triple H controversies? If so, please leave them in the comments section below. Also, if you enjoyed this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hold that notification bell. Until next time, I'm Singer Siete for 7 Wrestling saying bye-bye.